It's productivity time.
It's productivity time.
It's productivity time with Upvisor
and Blue Ninja.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's and this month's hashtag productivity. I cannot believe that it's been another month, but it's always so awesome to be here with Julia and Louisa from the Blue Ninjas. And last month we discussed growing a team-friendly business, which was really cool. And it's so important to have clear communication and ensure that your team is supported, because without a team, you can't actually make sure that your business is successful, right? So based on that little foundation, we are going to start talking today about optimizing your business flow, which totally fits nicely into our hashtag productivity topic, right? And just a flashback to, I think 2 months ago, we were chatting about business processes and dealing with Hire a Chameleon and all sorts of things like that, and looking at how you can automate your business processes. So just tapping into that one, as we talk about optimizing business processes and automating your operations, I want us to remember that it's not just about large companies doing this. It is relevant for you at whatever level you are in your business. So if you want to focus on being the CEO, which is not the chief of everything officer, right? It's the chief executive officer of your company, and being able to get it to a point of growth, you need to make sure that you are reviewing your processes and workflows on a regular basis. So look at those tasks that maybe you don't find that easily, maybe it's not in line with your strengths, or maybe you don't like to do them, or maybe you don't have enough expertise to do them. Identify what those are, outsource them to people who can actually do them well and do them quickly and competently, and you will find that that is obviously going to improve your productivity, right? That should make sense. So ladies, where do you start? Like, this is such a big topic. And even though we've discussed it previously, maybe, it's not something that is very exciting. And I know finances don't excite people. So where do we start this very essentially boring subject? Although I do actually think it can be quite interesting.
Yeah. I mean, running a business is time consuming, and processes just get put on the back burner. They're nice to have pile, but then they can get forgotten. Mm-hmm. The last thing you want to have in your business: dissatisfied customers, missed deadlines, missed payments, unhappy workers, increased costs and wasted resources. That's something we really don't want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the first time we interact with a potential client, it's usually because there's a problem. So, something's not sustainable anymore. And usually the cause is a lack of robust processes and procedures. People don't really talk about those things. So planning is a place to cover someone's absence. They're on holiday, which quite a lot of people over Europe are in holidays at the moment, and someone needs to pick up their role. Sometimes if it's not written down, or it's not been shown to someone, how is someone expected to know what to do? And so that's what we're trying to address.
Absolutely. And I totally relate to that. It's so important to be able to have someone else that can do the same work that you do, because you never know when that bus might hit you, right? And you don't want the whole business to go down because of it. So what then is a business process? Like, define it for us, help us to understand what this means.
So in simple terms, it's a collection of tasks that deliver an outcome, a service or a product. It can be really simple, like a one-page checklist, to something a bit more complicated, like an SOP, a standard operating procedure. The complexity, the number of touch points with other systems should be taken into account when prioritising which processes need documenting, which ones you're going to do first. Look at the risk of something going wrong and tackle that one first.
And an example of this is submitting an invoice for payment. So the starting point is that people need to be paid, and the goal is the payment is made. So who needs to be involved in this process? It may be more people than you think. A company should have a policy or some sort of written statement advising what the requirements are in order to get paid. Who processes the payment? What are the terms of the payment? What information is needed on an invoice in order to make the payment? Is there a legal requirement for that information as well? What currency should it be in? Do you need to include tax? If so, at what rate? So many questions.
Wow. Makes me tired just thinking about it.
I know. A simple statement of making a payment to someone suddenly becomes quite a detailed process. I think people, when they look at something, go, "Oh, that's so easy to do." Actually, step back and think about all the layers of it. All of these layers need to be addressed. If a payment happens, then excellent, result, someone's been paid. But what happens next? Where does that paperwork get filed? Who does the payment? Where is that reported to? How long do you keep a copy of the records? If this is a new process, is this a new process or a continuation of another process? So many questions.
And do you maybe just need someone else to do this for you? Like based on all of those questions you were asking, Louisa, I'm just like, make it go away, right?
So
throw money at it.
The expertise level, are you giving someone a task that they're not qualified to do or don't have experience in doing? It adds an extra layer of, how much training do they need as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that becomes really complicated. So what then about repeatable tasks, and what is the value of handing these over? Because what you have shared now is a little bit of a repeatable task. Maybe there's some customization for every invoice for different customers. But what is the value of getting rid of some of these repeatable tasks?
It's very tempting to just hand something over and show someone how to do the task. But, isn't it worth the time to review what you currently do and improve it? As OBMs, which is online business managers, we bring that continuous improvement to everything we do. We look at regular VA tasks, virtual assistant tasks, and take them to the next level. If a client has reached out to us, then they must be ready for a change. And we've got the tools and the knowledge to make their lives easier.
Absolutely.
And automation can sound scary and impersonal, but it's just taking the boring admin tasks away and making things work better. I was speaking to a photographer recently, telling her about using Calendly, and she said, "Oh, that's a bit impersonal." I was like, well, if you've already had the contact with them and interaction with them, and then you're just going to have this back and forth of booking an appointment, and it just takes away that time. It reduces the number of emails, which equals, as we know, reduction of wasted time and money, and it increases productivity. It might not seem like much, but over multiple bookings over a year, it's just going to add up.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I mean, the amount of time that we spend trying to get calendars to match, it's just ridiculous. It's quite scary, actually. I just want to come back to something that Louisa had said about, handing someone over, quickly showing them how to do it, and then sort of like leaving it and trusting that they'll be able to carry on with it. I was reading about, it was one of the very productive guys, I can't remember which one it was exactly, might have been Rory Vaden, but he was suggesting the amount of time that you spend on helping someone else understand how to do this task. If it takes you like an hour to do, you should be investing at least 30 times, I think, that amount of time in getting that person to do it amazingly well. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, when are you going to get your ROI? But actually, it's so true, because you don't want to just hand over this task to someone who can do it equally as well as you. You want someone who can do it better than you, and that maybe can help you to identify these ways to improve the process, right? So also just start, for our listeners, start thinking about that. How much time are you actually spending training other people and showing them how to do some of the tasks that you're going to be delegating? So maybe as we are talking about training, this is where we hear about these things like SOPs. Julie, you mentioned standard operating procedures, a really big word. Like, isn't that a bit grand for small businesses? Do we really need SOPs? I mean, really, ISOs and whatever.
Yeah. As a small business, you don't necessarily need a phone book style manual of processes bound in leather, although that sounds awesome.
It does.
As soon as you print out a process, it could change. So you need to think long term. What do you want it to do for you? When you do write down a process, ensure that you've got screenshots, linked to systems, maybe passwords if necessary, as well as using clear terminology, maybe terminology you use in your office regularly. Or even better, how about recording processes? It's so popular now. A clear show and tell demonstrating the system and how it works is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
One of our clients is always too busy to write down his processes. So I've suggested using Loom recording to do that. And it will just help us enormously with what we need to work with him on.
And we've done, sorry, go on.
No, I totally agree with this. And I think I was actually just looking on my Microsoft earlier today, and they've got like a step-by-step recorder that helps you capture the screenshots as you go. So there's really so much benefit in being able to do that. Sorry, Julie, carry on.
No, it's fine. And I was going to say, we've done the Loom recordings as well, and we've just had a short time and needed to hand a process over internally. You just need to double check that the person has the right logins and level of access, but then away they go. They've got that, they can keep going back to it. And yeah, it's just a simple visual way of doing it rather than a phone book of processes.
Oh, yes. I think that screen share is just so important. And especially if it's in a video, you can easily just pause it where you're stuck, check your screen against what it should look like and see where you went wrong. There's just so much value to it. I love that. Tell us quickly about the benefits of mapping your processes and workflow, because, I mean, can't we just do a screen share and carry on? Like, help us out here.
Yeah, but if you map it out, you'll get a view of all the moving parts. Especially if you've got a couple of people in your team. Sometimes they won't realise that systems are interlinked. Everybody's doing their own thing and they just assume that things work the same or whatever across the teams. So it's important to know if you change or swap out one piece of system, process, software, that it doesn't affect something down the line. Then when you have documented the process, you need to test it out with everyone involved, all the stakeholders, to ensure the process, that they understand it. They may have something to add that you may not have known about. I tend to get somebody that doesn't know the process at all, a willing person, to try it out. So that just check the terminology and just the simplicity of it. And if it passes through there, then it should be fine.
And I've got a project that I'm particularly proud of where mapping the process actually drastically improved the onboarding for a company that I worked, with international consultants. Their processes kept getting stuck, but they didn't have the time to work out why. They had a 2-page document, so they had something of what was supposed to go where, but no information on responsibilities. So I dug into the process and found that the operating director was responsible for nearly everything. He'd send out the emails for the paperwork, but he rarely chased it up because he was too busy. And if the consultants didn't follow up, which generally they didn't, it would be a month or two before both of them realized there was a problem. So I took 90% of the process out of the operating director's hands. He didn't want to give it up initially, and I understood he thought there was confidentiality and different elements that he thought he had to oversee. But when I mapped it out, I showed him how much of it didn't need director oversight. We flagged critical points in the process that did need his input, but once it was out of his hands and it had a proper flow, it ran so smoothly. And it meant that the consultants became responsible for providing the information they were supposed to be providing much more efficiently. And it was also a gauge for the company to see how serious and responsive those consultants were. We took out steps that were unnecessary. We gathered data later on when we actually needed it because they were trying to gather information at the start, which wasn't relevant. It was a mess. So, we saved the company money by asking questions about why things were done the way they were done. And examples like this help to drive out issues that you may not be aware of, such as software or systems that either you're not using very well or at all.
I love that. Yeah. And it's so important, right, that we understand how these things fit together. I totally agree. And asking the right questions. But sometimes things happen and we forget to update our processes. As you guys mentioned earlier, maybe there's a fundamental piece of the system or process or software that's changing, but we never actually go back and change it. So how often should we be reviewing these processes?
Well, minimum annually, but as soon as the software or system changes, it's removed or introduced, review the touch points with other systems to ensure it won't have any impact or minimal impact.
And you can use an operating rhythm. So that sounds quite grand, but if you add your key processes onto your operating rhythm, your key dates that happen every week, every month, every quarter, every year, something that I've used in banking before as part of a Six Sigma methodology. These are key tasks that are repeated. The ones that you need to focus on when deciding which process to document. We've written a blog about this that we can share in the comments as well. But having something on one page visually and you've just got all your sort of major milestones you need to keep an eye on, that really helps to focus.
I love that. So in case anyone hasn't yet been convinced as to all of the benefits, please would you summarize the benefits of documenting all of our processes?
So, I mean, having robust processes in place and documented helps with so many things, apart from uncertainty and reduction of service. So, I mean, improves efficiency and eliminates duplication of work. Nobody likes doing things over and over, and two people doing the same thing, but they're not really doing the same thing. Yeah. Identify relevant and important tasks related to your business goals. Streamline communication and enhance transparency within the organisation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and standardise processes and ensure specialisation of work, keeping track of organisational goals, optimising resources, and identifying procedures for improvement or review.
Mm-hmm. And if nothing else convinced you, it's that one, right? The processes that you can improve and can save you time and money, because that's what we're all about, right? Saving you time, saving you money, putting you first. So, ladies, our final question, as we always have, is what tools would you recommend in this process? And you've sort of addressed some of them already, but go for it.
Yeah, Loom. I mean, Loom's a great tool to make recordings. It's quite popular. It has a free option. There are other tools very similar to Loom that go out that you can record your screen. So just takes a little bit of investigation, but find something that works for you that you're comfortable using. So all I can say is if you don't like one tool, find another one, because there are many tools out there that all provide very similar options, you know. So lots of software on the market, you know, that will map processes. You know, I use Word, sometimes PowerPoint, you know, whatever you have to hand works well for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm someone that needs a bit more structure because, I need some boxes. I need some arrows set out for me. I'm used to mapping out swim lane diagrams. So Visio is something that works well for me. Mm-hmm. But as Louisa said, just use what works for you. It might be a piece of paper. As long as, you know, you record it well, you understand it, and you save it somewhere eventually.
Where it makes sense and you don't forget.
Yeah, don't forget all these there. And we've got some more blogs and we can share, and we love tools and like you do. So, yeah, and it's all about getting your foundations right. Once you've got your basic critical processes there, you just feel so much more comfortable.
Absolutely. I love that. And I would love for you guys to share your favorite free mind mapping tools. Julie and Louisa, if you have, I know Visio is very cool, but you have to pay for it. So share a free version with us, please. That'll be amazing. But awesome. Ladies, always a pleasure chatting to you guys. And I love this whole concept of automating and optimizing your business, because that is where we get to the point where we can really get a productive business, a business that is sustainable and that is scalable. So super important topic. Go check out the blog post that we'll be sharing in the links or in the comments below. So yeah, awesome, ladies. Until next month, we'll see you then. Thank you. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
This podcast has been brought to you today by Optimising and Blue Ninja. Optimising, your strategic financial partner of choice to improve your productivity and profitability. Visit optimising.co.za to unlock your full potential. Blue Ninja, your online business management team for streamlining and improving your business functionality. Visit blueninja.eu because every business needs a ninja.